Coach Ryan from Functional Flex Team FFLEX. I'm here in the office today. We're going to break down the glutes. Coach Ryan's going to teach you how to build that ass. Alright? So I'm going to cover the anatomy. I'm going to tell you how to activate these muscles. I'm going to tell you how to train them. And I'm going to give you my own best tips for training the glutes in general. So this video is going to benefit you no matter who you are, what you're doing. Your bikini competitors would be great for competition, getting the posterior chain right to do a successful prep. If you're just a guy or girl that wants to work on your glutes anyway, shape it, form it, do whatever you want to do, this video will be good for you too. If you want to get stronger glutes to support your other lifts, you know, this is going to be covering it all for you. Okay, so we're going to talk about the anatomy first. First things first, here we go. So, we're looking at the glutes right here on the screen in a posterior chain view. Posterior chain meaning this is the back of the body, this is your pelvis right here, okay? So, the biggest part of the glute is called the glute maximus. A lot of people talk about only two parts of the glute, there's actually three, we're going to cover them all. First things first, glute maximus, okay? So glute maximus is right here. It's going to cut across just like this. So, this is the biggest part of the glute, the biggest muscle you have in the glute, and this generally is what fills out your glutes the most. So if you're trying to fill out a pair of jeans or some shit, this is going to be the muscle that does it for the most part. So this actually inserts down here and comes up, connects to your pelvis. So if you actually look at the threads of this muscle, it's going to be just like this. So, that's important to know. We're going to move on to the other ones. I'm going to come back and tell you exactly how to train all these though. So, glute medius. This is right here. We're looking at this here. So we had glute max just a minute ago, now glute med. This is the top of your pelvis basically, okay? Top of your ass. So the round part, right? If you didn't develop this area, you would have a not a round upper glute basically. So if you're a competitor or whatever, this is very important for you. You gotta know about the glute medius, okay? So the glute medius is a smaller muscle up on the top, and it's right there, kind of connecting in at the top of the pelvis. Next, glute minimus. So glute minimus is right here, and this is an actual kind of funnier kind of glute muscle that people don't normally talk about, okay? Because it's underneath these other two. So it's underneath the glute max and the glute medius. It's literally underneath them, and so a lot of people just ignore it. They think it's not working, whatever. It's actually super important though to actually help both these glute max and glute medius come out, pop out, shape, form, and it's really important for hip stability, hip stabilization. So this actually feeds right here, connects down here, and comes up into the pelvis. Alright? So those are your three kind of top glute muscles. There's other muscles in here like the piriformis and other hip stabilizers. We're not going to talk about those for the sake of this video. So, most important thing people mess up with their glute training is they do not activate their glutes. Okay? So take Coach Ryan for example right now. I'm sitting here in my chair. I spent however many hours sitting in my chair. As I sit in my chair, I'm compressing my glute muscles, okay? So I'm literally sitting on my glute muscles here, mainly glute max, etc., but also glute med's gonna get in there and stuff like that. I'm literally sitting on my ass all day. Whenever we're sitting on our ass, you guys, you gotta think of it like this, right? So if I take my hand and I squeeze my hand tight, do this right now with me. Take your hand, squeeze your hand tight. What's gonna happen to your hand when you open it? We open our hand, there's no blood flow in the damn hand, and then it all comes back. But the point is, why it's like this, we don't have any blood flow. We're literally restricting the muscles in my hand right here from blood flow. Same shit's going on with your ass. Okay? As you're sitting on your ass all day, as you drive to work, you drive to school, you're sitting at school, you're sitting at work, you're sitting at home on the damn couch watching fucking Netflix, whatever you're doing, you're sitting down between sets at the gym, your ass is going to sleep. Okay? Basically, it's like this. And what happens to that is means that the glutes get desensitized, okay? So they don't have the same nerve ending stimulation they would normally, which means the muscle's not going to be able to train as effectively. Now, think about this for a minute. A lot of people say that they're quad dominant. A lot of people say like, oh, my quads are so big, but my glutes, whatever, they don't work, whatever. A lot of people that get back pain have underdeveloped glutes. A lot of people that think they're out of shape and out of proportion with bigger quads, whatever. It's simply the fact that they're not training their glutes because the glutes are actually asleep. They're not taking the time to go ahead and wake them up or get them warmed up, get them ready for training, get the muscles actually activated so they actually train when we train. And what ends up happening is the fact that we're going to train, your body's going to do what it takes, your body says, okay, we're here to do some workout today, we're here to lift weights, we're going to do it by whatever means necessary. You could go try to do a glute exercise, and if your glutes are not working, your low back will work, and your quads will work, your hamstrings will work, your glutes will stay asleep, and they will progressively shrink, they will progressively not grow, they will progressively not get stronger. Well, everything else does. You get majorly hypertrophied spinal erectas and stuff like here. And we get majorly hypertrophied hamstrings. We get overdeveloped quads. I know you guys have seen the person. I know you know the person. I know maybe some of you are that person. Okay? If you're the person that routinely gets back pain, back injuries, a lot of time, not developed the glutes. So, how do you warm these damn things up in the first place? Best way to do it, a lot of people do bands and shit, which are great. Bands can work, okay? Bands will stimulate mainly glute medius, a little bit of glute minimus even, but it's not the best type of warm-up. The best kind of warm-up you can do for your glutes is going to be like single leg hip bridges and things like that. So where you're laying on your back, you plant one foot down, and you're going to bridge yourself up by raising your pelvis up off the floor, pushing down through your heel, getting a tall position. Because when we do that, we're working this here, we're working this here, and we're working this here. We hit all three parts of glute muscle. We're getting good activation at the glute maximus, good activation at the glute medius, and glute activation at the glute minimus. Okay? Super important exercise. Great for people that have back pain, great for people that have muscle imbalances, great for people that want to really warm up this area and get it to work. So I'm going to recommend for you, whoever you are watching this video, just a blanket statement, because I don't know who you are personally, that you should be doing some glute bridges before your glute day. Do 2-3 sets of 12 to 15 reps on each side and really take time to focus on that muscle, get the mind-muscle connection, get it to fire up, get it awake. As I am a coach for many bikini competitors, many females, many males even, they want to work the glutes. I am programming these types of warm-ups in for many, many people, okay? Often, you're going to have one of these happening, maybe some bands, it's going to be something like this, but I'm always going to make sure that when we're training a glute day, we're doing a glute type exercise, I have a glute posterior chain dominant training schedule for you, that you're going to wake these muscles up, because otherwise I'm going to end up with people way out of proportion, end up with people hurting their backs, end up with all kinds of problems, okay? So first things first, you have to know if you want to train your glutes effectively, and you want to actually build them, is you have to warm them up. You have to activate them and make sure they're going to train. Never go into a leg day, never go into a glute day, never go to the fucking gym, basically, for any lower body without glute activation. Super, super important, okay? So next, how do we train each kind of area here in general? In a lot of exercises, you guys, the best kind of exercise that I would ever recommend are going to be things like hip thrusts and bridges and deadlifts and stuff like that. A lot of people are going to say right out the gate, Ryan, why aren't you talking about squats for training glutes? Because squats hardly train the glutes, you guys. Squats hardly train the glutes at all. I know they're the quote-unquote booty builder. All the fucking girls on Instagram want to post that shit in their bios for their booty guides. But the truth is that the glutes hardly train when we do a squat. When we think about the squat, we have to think about what is decelerating movement, right? Deceleration of the movement on the way down is what's going to train the most, because that's what's fighting gravity. In the squat, it is actually your quadriceps. So it is not actually your glute. If we take a look right here, glutes are here, okay? This is your glute muscle back in here. Blue pen, what the fuck? Right here, this is your glute right in this zone, okay? These are going to be your quads. These are going to be your hams. These are going to be other kind of IT bands and shit like that we don't need to talk about right now. But the point is, these will train far, far more when we do squats and things like that than this will. Simply due to the fact that this is a much larger muscle decelerating movement as you descend down. Okay? So you must absolutely understand squats are not a great glute exercise already. They're an okay exercise for general lower body muscle activation, but they are not the king for glute training. I'm going to say to this day still, the best exercise for glutes is barbell hip thrusts off of a bench. Okay? So you put your back on the bench, you get a bar, you put it across your pelvis. Now you're going to sink down. You got your feet planted on the floor, you're going to sink down, and we're going to let the body come all the way down to a fully lengthened position to where your glutes would actually be stretched and then you're gonna bridge your way up, push the weight through, come up to a tall position to where they would close off. That is how you're gonna most effectively be able to train this muscle right here. Okay, glute max and glute medius is both gonna go to work with the glute minimus on a hip thrust. Point of the matter is, as we descend down, this stretches out. As we come up, this closes up. And when it closes up, that's when it trains. That's how you train every muscle. If I want to go train my bicep, it's a stretch, it's a shorten. It's a stretch, it's a shorten. We can do the same thing with the barbell hip thrust here. And it is isolative in the sense where we're not going to have a bunch of other muscles working. So if we look right here, very easy to have the quads involved. Very easy to have hamstrings involved. Very easy to get low back involved on a lot of other exercises that train the glutes. However, on a barbell hip thrust itself, the primary mover and very actually isolated is the glute. You're not going to get a lot of quad on that. You're not going to get a lot of hamstring. You're not going to get a lot of low back because of the position your body's in general. It just will not support the load the same way. So that is always my number one go-to kind of glute building exercise. Don't do any training days for glutes or whatever without that exercise, period. So if you want to know some other exercises that are going to target different muscles, right? Let's say somebody has a very hard time building their glute medius, so actually shaping the upper glute, getting roundness. This is very important for competitors. A lot of people in general want to do this. A lot of girls talk about hip dips and shit, whatever. So if you really want to work your glute medius, the way that you do this is through isolating ranges of motion. So you're actually going to do different motions to the point where, let's say you're doing a cable kickback, okay? So you got the cable strap tied onto your leg, you're going to do a kickback. If you do a full kickback, you're going to get both areas, all right? So if you're already underdeveloped here and you continue to work both, you're going to continue to further in your compensation, continue to further exaggerate the imbalance, in other words, because you're going to end up with both becoming bigger together as opposed to isolating one to fill out the weaker part of the chain. Right here, we can work it by doing isolated range of motion. So if we're doing a kickback, for example, we can bring the leg down like a quarter or half of the way and bring it back up. So then we're going to really isolate into this area and change the actual dynamic of how we're going to train the glute. Because now, instead of hitting everything together, we're going to be very much so hitting just the glute medius, which is really going to bring out that upper shape and that upper roundness. So let's say glute minimus, right? We were talking about wanting to fill things out, push these other two out more, etc. It's actually going to train for the most part on everything, but especially in hip stabilization. So things where we're going to do single leg type action, it's going to actually work a lot more because it's going to stabilize your hip. And so that's how we really kick this one on. Think of things like your single leg deadlifts or even lunges to some degree, or exercise where you balance, whatever. This type of muscle is going to fire up a lot when you're training there. So how do you train all of these muscles the most effectively? Like a sample, what's Coach Rye's go-to glutes would be doing some hip thrusts, okay, we talked about that, really target all these areas. Doing some isolation type movements to hit the upper glute because it's important for the roundness and important for many people. Making sure that this muscle is trained through stabilization exercises because it's important for health and also shape, aesthetic of the glutes in general. So I would recommend you do things like this. You do heavy compounds in the beginning of your glute training. Okay? To the point where we're talking about doing heavy hip bridges, we're talking about doing things like that, potentially heavy deadlifts, etc. Then you're going to train into things like good mornings or single leg this, lunges, split squats, different stuff like this where we're going to change the ranges of motion, cable kickbacks, etc. to the point where we're going to isolate different areas and we'll be able to get different things to fire up in general, okay? When you train these things, when you're doing bigger muscles, they're most beneficial to be doing various rep ranges, okay? So we're talking about doing heavier and lighter rep ranges, really hitting that muscle group. And then on these other areas where you're really trying to fill in different things, these are much smaller areas in general, so it can be much more difficult to do heavy loads and things like that properly. So these muscles are actually better trained in a less intense way. So more with a lot more focus, more with a lot more tempo, more with a lot more better range of motion, more with less weight. Less is more when we train these muscles, okay? We want to do higher reps, lower weights, and really isolate and try to shape. So overall, if you're trying to train your glutes, trying to get the most bang for the buck, you gotta get your hip thrusts in there if you don't have that now. You gotta make sure that you're warming up everything though. You gotta make sure we're really taking time, like at least 10-15 minutes, literally, to do a real warm up to really activate these muscles. That's the most important part of glute training. None of the exercises I said, none of what I said after the warm up will matter if you don't do the warm up. Okay, because none of that's going to be accurate. You're going to end up going in and trying to train this and that and do this and that. And you're going to be working different things. Your back's going to be working too hard. Your quads are going to be working too hard. Your hamstrings, whatever. And you're going to transfer the load to areas we're not trying to train. Really important that you activate the muscles, you get them to work, you warm them up, and then you train them at their highest potential, most effective manner because you have done the proper warm up prior. That's how you do it, you guys. If you want more tips on glute training, you want more tips on how to get this shaped, you want more tips if you're a competitor or someone in general that just wants better glutes across the board, head to my website, teamfflex.com. I will help you guys out. I got a ton of resources on there. teamfflex.com. Check it out. Coach Ryan is out.